Debbie Wasserman Schultz wants you to believe that there was incredible violence, and that was all that there was at Nevada. Just violence, with Bernie bros threatening to tear down the whole house and set it on fire. They don't actually show that that happened, and they don't acknowledge that the rules were clearly manipulated. There's video evidence, which we've shown on the show already. They won't admit that, and all of the news reports about this won't admit that either. They try to spin it as Bernie Sanders supporters being pissed off that the rules weren't changed in their favor. When you listen to the vote of acclamation, the voice vote, I mean, nobody can listen to that and not know that the rules were manipulated to benefit Hillary Clinton. But you're not going to trust me if you don't already believe that, and you're not going to trust any Bernie Sanders supporter. So, what about a Hillary Clinton delegate from the actual Nevada convention?
No, I was privately registered. We had done absolutely everything, done it on time, had the state office confirm it, and mysteriously, and it had been printed online on their site. And then mysteriously, in an email that went out on Wednesday, our names just weren't there. When I went to try and correct it, I was given lots of various information. Really, no one seemed to know what was going on. Eventually, I ended up in a long line outside the Credentials Committee room. Everyone got to go in. It was very interesting. But I stood and waited for 4 hours. And then they put it back on. And then an hour later, when we were voting in the district rooms, my husband's name was mysteriously taken off again.
So again, this is a delegate for Hillary Clinton saying that she had problems with the registration. Her husband's name was taken off. And so this is giving you an idea of the, at the very best, the best spin, the incompetence that this convention was run with.
We the people know that our electoral process has been corrupted. This is not some sort of conspiracy theory. This is not some sort of a sick joke, and this is perhaps especially true in Maricopa County. In 2012, the Spanish sample ballot in my district had the wrong date printed on the Spanish ballot and only on the Spanish ballot. In 2016, polling sites show a clear division at McDowell Road. This is especially disturbing because until the late 1960s, people of color were not allowed to live north of McDowell Road. Voter suppression was blatant in Maricopa County. The racially and economically oriented placement of polling sites is disgraceful. I hope that all of you have taken the time to look at a map and see how few polling places were available in South and Southwest Phoenix, south of McDowell Road. The fraudulent fiasco guised as a presidential primary on March 22nd, 2016 needs to be nullified, and constituents need to be allowed to vote. Some of us to re-vote. All who were not able to vote need to be recognized, and all votes need to be counted. Many petitions are currently circulating for an investigation of this atrocity and a re-vote on June 7th. Hundreds of thousands of signatures on over a dozen such petitions have been created. Let that implore you. All right, I spent 5 hours in line. Pandering to the elite while neglecting the poor is a recipe for corruption, and we are a living example right here, right now. The corruption has become so established that it got comfortable. So comfortable that it got lazy. So lazy that you got caught. Yeah! No more voter suppression can be tolerated in Maricopa County. We demand that our votes be counted. We demand a re-vote on June 7th with an open primary. Current corruption needs to be held accountable.
Thank you so much.
This is voter suppression at its best. Standing in line 4 or 5 hours to vote? How can we call a winner when there are thousands of people still in line?
This is a travesty of justice. I really feel there's criminal intent.
They had one polling location for 100,000 students.
There were tons of people like myself that had to turn around, people that were crying, people that were in pain. They could not handle the wait times, and they left.
Voting must be simple. This last election, as you see, it was not simple.
So in Rhode Island, there was an attempt by the powers that be, it appears, to make sure that not as many people voted. So now part of that is because almost everybody in the Rhode Island Democratic Party infrastructure was for Hillary Clinton. And Rhode Island's an open primary, so Bernie Sanders was favored. He wins almost all the open primaries, and in fact, you're going to see a Clinton staffer pretty much admit that. So they tried super hard. They closed 2/3 of the polling stations to discourage voting. And Governor Gina Raimondo is a Clinton delegate, a Clinton enthusiast, and she, it appears, based on the facts on the ground, did everything she could to try to make sure Hillary Clinton won. Well, it didn't work. Bernie Sanders won anyway, but it did work in one way, and let me tell you how that is. Republican voter turnout in Rhode Island was up 118%. Now, Rhode Island is a heavily Democratic state, so there was still less Republicans that showed up than Democrats, but their enthusiasm is way, way up. Their voter turnout is way up. Turnout fell for Democrats, on the other hand, and was down 36% compared to the last competitive Democratic presidential primary in 2008. So, great job, Democratic Party machine. You sap the enthusiasm from your own side, while the other side is super energized.
The leaked emails revealed a close relationship between Hillary Clinton and the mainstream media. In one email that was forwarded between DNC officials, Politico reporter Ken Vogel sent a copy of his story on Hillary Clinton's campaign practices to the DNC before he sent it to his own editors. You know, to give them time to coordinate a response for when the story was actually published. Although the DNC claimed to remain neutral, one of the most important things revealed by WikiLeaks was that the committee had a bias against Bernie Sanders. Despite drawing hundreds of thousands of people to his rallies and proving to be a viable candidate, Sanders was ridiculed by top DNC officials. After a staffer from the Sanders campaign gained access to voter data from the Clinton campaign, one DNC official wrote, wondering if there's a good Bernie narrative for a story, which is that Bernie never ever had his act together, that his campaign was a mess.
Let me ask you about something Bernie Sanders said, Larry Cohen. Last night at his rally, he said the final result of the California primary is not official yet. On Thursday, California Secretary of State Alex Padilla said at least 2 million votes have yet to be counted. Hillary Clinton is currently leading by about 440,000 votes. So California is not a done deal?
Well, I think that our supporters in California are quite adamant that every vote be counted. There have been problems all through the primary and caucus process. One of the issues that we will definitely take to the convention and beyond is the way this whole process has worked. And it has not worked well in state after state, including, as you mentioned, California and days before Puerto Rico, which is still not counted. But really the bigger issue in terms of transparency has been, places like Iowa at the beginning where there's not even a tally of how many people showed up at each precinct.